Now, when we look at the other form of identity politics, I'm looking at the church. The church is quite massive in terms of beliefs, and why I'm looking at that, because it has so much segregation on its own with one message, but the message has multiple layers, And if you look at the reformation of the church, how should I explain it? Long story short, Roman Catholics back then had one way of praising and looking up at God from the Jewish point of view, taking the Old Testament and feeding it to everyone, and everyone not receiving the New Testament or the right understanding of serving God. And then one of them in German, who's called Martin Luther, began to read more and gain more information, being part of the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. And eventually he started to give them the truth that you should not use indulgence as a form of worshiping God and sacrificing, yada, 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 because Christ came and it's done. Okay, when I mean indulgence and offerings and all that, when you commit a sin and you do something wrong, and you're guilty, and you know that you praise a God that doesn't want that. He doesn't want you to commit sin. He doesn't want you to kill, cheat, steal. Doesn't want that. You have to go and do a burnt offering or go to a preacher to tell him your sins. And that was the Roman Catholic to say, hey, I've done this, and they pay for indulgence, and that's it. It's more like that. So when Martin Luther saw that, he's like, nope, that's not right. There's more to it. Christ died for that to be stopped, because we're not going to learn. He wants our hearts. He wants every fiber of our own being to be loving God, to be connected to God. So he died for our sins, and he wants us to connect through Christ. And that's what Martin Luther saw. And he's like, this is wrong, and started to spread it out. And then from that, boom, came a plethora of different ways of understanding God and Jesus Christ. And that was the Reformation. Everything exploded to different segments of belief. You're a Methodist church. You are identified as a Seventh-day Adventist. You identify as apostle. You're identified as, oh my gosh, there's a lot. And this is how identity politics also plays a huge role. I church here, and therefore it makes me more popular. I church here, and therefore it makes my pastor popular, and we tithe to him, and yada, yada, yada. So where do we find anti-segregation in this? We don't. Probably in the book, the Bible, which is one thing, but we get people who observe it differently. Can you see? And as simple as it is sad or quite unfortunate that people see themselves in not being part of another party, regardless who they are. They just don't want to see, or they are blind to see that we are all in one boat, trying to get to that island to have freedom and live together harmoniously. I think it's in our nature, probably, to live without people in a certain time, because you value your views that we should be this way, do this, and that. And yet we do long for, in a natural sense, our nature longs for companionship. Those are two conflicting understanding point of views. If you disagree with the person, you don't want to conform with them. You don't want to be with them. You reject them. But when you want to be with someone, because you're lonely, you need them to validate your existence. So this is where it gets to the end of this video, the last observation of this identity politics. Whew! Have you survived or not? Are you still watching? I don't know. If you are, then you're learning. I'm learning. We are both in this. I'm learning, you're learning. We are both in this. So we should we should self-actualize. We should self-actualize. You should know who you are. I should know where I am and who I am and what I'm doing. This whole cluster of identity politics of different countries, different ideologies, different methodologies must not control you, must not make you conform to it so that you lose your own sense of right passage to your true identity, your goals, your purpose. Probably you have a calling. Okay, now I'm going all Christian vibe here, but you have a purpose. You need to do something. And you will be distracted because you are identifying with other things instead of your own purpose. So self-actualization, not in the terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but his mentor who spoke about self-actualization being literally identifying yourself in your environment and who you are and what you are supposed to do. And that is so important for you. Hence why with the previous video I spoke about mindset. It's important for you to sit down there and sit in your spot like a man cave. Women, you also need to sit in your own version of closing off the world and find yourself. What do you want to achieve? Sometimes we're not realizing we're doing someone's goal. Well, we're working for someone's goal instead of ours. And don't get me wrong, a 9 to 5 is not a bad thing. But it's up to you what you do after that 9 to 5. And what that 9 to 5 does for you. It compensates you with something. And that's something, what do you do with it? Is it a side hustle? Good, let it be. Oh my gosh, why am I blowing on Facebook at this time? Is it a hustling project that you're having? Is it some legacy that you want to build? Identify yourself first. See yourself first. Hence why I'm so happy to be an introvert, because I saw myself first. I had to know who I am, where I'm going. I'm African. I'm from South Africa. I love watching sports, gymming all the time. I love doing all these things. What I love doing identifies me. I enjoy that. Why don't I make it a living? Why don't I push it to the next limit? And why don't I go in uncharted territory to be uncomfortable but thrive in that space? You know, and it's a fact. When you pull yourself away from some confined, comfortable spot, you start to grow. So let us self-actualize. I mean, you still have time. Even when you're in your 40s, you still got a lot of time. Know who you are. I mean, that's why as guys, we have a midlife crisis. At 40, we're wearing Gucci brands, shorts and acting like 2Ks or young people, and wearing tight shirts. I mean, we have a big stomach at that time. Probably I won't. I'll be working hard for my 6-pack, and that is a problem. We see more of guys living young at a late stage where they're supposed to build and have a family. We should self-actualize as early as in our teens. It's difficult. You will make mistakes. You need to grow. But at least tell yourself where you want to be. I wanted to be an IT person when I started to look at my career. And then I saw, and my friend told me, you're drawing, and I identify with drawing a lot. And he's like, you should do graphic designing. You're good at that. Then I was like, okay, I'll try that out. And voila, I have my own production. And I'm so glad that I took that position, and in understanding who I am and finding out, can I do this? Can I push it further? I don't know about it, but it is synonymous with the tech world, IT. So guys, we need to pull ourselves back. And I'm talking to everyone, not just men, to find themselves first. Breathe for a moment. We had a nice video about mindset. I told you what to do. Now plan and do that. Self-actualize who you are before you let the world do that for you. And when the world does that for you, you're not going to be yourself. You're going to be some product of the world. And you're not going to look at who you are for what you are supposed to do in this world. And unfortunately, you'll be conformed to the wrong things. You'll think that, like, okay, just to also extrapolate in terms of Africans, we also have an issue of tribalism or Pan-Africanism issues. I would say we should live in one continent and be placed in society, and it's not going to work because we've got different views, different traditions as well. So if I don't identify myself in my country, who I am and what I'm about to do and what I need to do that is positive for my own country, I won't be more self-actualized. And there's a fact that it is going to be controversial, but I'm gonna speak it out. The African diaspora need to understand. We need to understand that people have different views. We need to respect that firstly. Okay. Then we need to also fight for what is right. Africa as a whole is segregated to the maximum. We do not know ourselves. And white folks, I applaud you. Arab folks, I applaud you. Indian folks, I applaud you. Chinese folks, I applaud you because you guys know who you are. You know what you have done and what you can do even better. Africa doesn't know. They just know hand to mouth, and that's it. That's my point of view. You guys can add on or debunk me, but the fact is we are not harmoniously working for the betterment of our future. And we're not living to have a lasting legacy. We're living to just live now. And for a good example, many might disapprove. Maybe many might not like what I'm about to say. Most immigrants are African. Most. And they run away from their problems because they want to live for themselves, not for the community. We as South Africans have fought for our right to live as human beings. We got to that stage. Everybody knows about that. But when we see fellow Africans come and we tell them, why are you doing this? Why, others are not even from refugee status, and there's a law in the United Nations that the refugee status or act says, or policy or act says that you should be in a neighboring country to help you. But we don't get that with Africans. You'll find a Nigerian in South Africa. You'll find an Ethiopian in the UK, not looking at Kenya, the close neighboring countries. And I understand. I won't be there sitting and seeing what's going on in those countries. The war, the corruption, But what I know now will shock most of you guys. Because there is a shift, there is a movement. Africa is starting to be more patriotic. Chad, Niger, Burkina Faso are great examples, but Burkina Faso is the one. It's my stamp of approval that this is the future of Africa. We are starting to self-actualize. We are starting to build for our people a future that will thrive in the economy and around the world. We're going to change the mindset of your typical people who see Africa as less. And they did it. They already know how to refine gold. They have invested in making tomatoes become an export now. They are self-sustaining their country more than what us South Africans are doing or our government is doing. So there is hope. Because they self-actualize. I haven't seen a person from Burkina Faso coming to South Africa seeking for refugee. I haven't yet. Probably they are, but not a multitude as we have like Zimbabweans, Malawians. They are not that much, but Mozambicans and Nigerians and even white folks. We get like people from Ireland, as I mentioned. We even have white people or foreigners who come from their country and come to live, make a living in South Africa. But at least their country is stable, most white folks. But Africans, it's more like, no, my country's not stable, I'm okay. And the sense of this identity of identify being what I am, and these are Africans, what I am, but I'm in a country and I don't want to identify in that country. I want to identify who I am in this country, and this country has to conform for me. And that's wrong, guys. You can't do that. And when we need to change the country, how do we do it? How do you change the mindset that I need to be patriotic, go back home and fix my country? How do I do that? There's so many liberation stories, even America, for example, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali. Every individual that was going through oppression fought for their rights. Unfortunately, that's how it is in life. You have to fight to survive. And you will see the rewards at the end of the day. So yeah, that's how we do it in America. America is patriotic. I love them for that. And yes, there's a segregation there in there. There is, definitely. But African Americans are proud to be who they are. They're not gonna go to Africa and be like, I'm gonna chill, I wanna be a king. They should, to know their roots. And I love that they do that. I love that they go back to find who they are. And they're not shying away that they're not part of those Africans because they are part of the American culture. No, they know that they're Africans. So why don't Africans do that? Like, all right, cool, I love South Africa, but I need to go back home and fix my country and embrace it and be patriotic. We should do that. And the problem, I guess, stems from, you should listen to Farrakhan. Yes, controversial person. Read Steve Biko's book. And any pro-black narrative or any other story that tells you about black people who are looking at self-actualization and who they are. There's this thing of, we do not know each other, therefore we don't love each other. As an African, I do not know who I am because I'm looking at what people tell me who I am. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's a problem. And I encourage other races to read into that Africans don't know who they are and they should know who they are before they get to be who they are. And instead of listening from people telling them who they are, we forget the history that black people in Africa had more money. In Mali, Mansa Musa doing whatever he was doing, getting to spend that money to show that he was flexing. And Egypt being a civilization that had so much glorious architecture work and buildings and monuments that were carved with great meticulous handwork. And we generally forget all of that and assume that it's just white people. No, it's everyone. Everyone contributed to civilization. But you do not know the story of Africans doing it themselves. You just know that, no, it's not Africans, it's other people. So our lack of information, lack of self-actualization destroys your own future. It limits it. Doesn't give you the right purpose that you are supposed to go and embrace. And it's not just for us Africans, it's for everyone. I'm talking about every man in this world. You have a purpose. Don't let nobody or anybody, even your family and your wife, tell you, even your best loyal friend, tell you that this is your limit. This is who you are. No, you tell them that this is what you are and what you are about to do. Not just by verbal communication, but by action. That speaks more volumes, and it proves, and it might convert them to think differently, but it proves that you are self-actualized. So guys, identity politics, very complex, very tough to talk about. I went through the hoops and loops and I was like, should I say this? Should I not say this? But we have to have a conversation. And I wish, as a South African, now this is me personally, I wish white people can sit down with us and just talk. Not in a perspective that this is a once-off. Come continuously and talk and hear the harsh truth and get to have your heart out there, vulnerable, ready to be destroyed. To hear those harsh truths, like, all right, if I'm sitting with a white person and they tell me, you guys are lazy, and be like, why would you say that? No, we're not lazy. We work hard. How? By doing this and that, and then you continue. And we can also go back and forth with those conversations that are stereotypically mentioned in our society or in social media. But then again, it is important to self-actualize before you allow people to do that for you. It is important to place yourself first with the mindset, as I told you, to look deep within and find who you are. And then you can conquer the world. Then you can be more of a force that no one can stop. We need that in life. We need leaders. And you can see the world is lacking in that at times. But we need that. And I'm glad that the society is logical. The society has common sense sometimes. But if it wasn't for society, I would not be here. And I'm saying everyone in all walks of life, not just Africans. I'm here. Those who taught me, I'm here because of them. But it had to start with me. I love that those who guided me and saying, you can do it. You've got what it takes to do it. Don't worry. All will be well. You can do it. That is inspiring for a young boy, for a young girl, to walk in the footsteps that they are meant to walk on. A rite of passage of identity in their own self-actualized, analyzed manner of knowing who they are before they crash and fall into something else. But nevertheless, guys, look in the mirror. And if you see that yourself, like self-actualized, look at the mirror. If you see yourself ugly, don't worry, I went through that. I thought I was ugly. And this is the thing. I was pressurized that, hey, I'm black, I'm dark, and I'm ugly. And it's sad. But I had to go through it. And being an introvert, you face a lot. You just have to battle with the inner demon. So yeah, look at the mirror. Tell yourself that you are worthy. And you need to work hard on yourself. You need to invest yourself with positive information. And failure is just another stepping stone to success. So build that confidence. Next time we meet, I hope you'll tell me about your journey. Very tough to swallow topic, but we did it. This is a difficult topic, but we need to talk about it. Talk about it anyway, everywhere. I encourage all other races to talk about it. Let's normalize that we're different, but let's normalize that we can learn from each other with our differences. Identity politics is a scam. It was always going to be like that. It's going to take advantage of you as a being who has so much to offer to this world. And the hindrance would be segregation of this identity politics. And then that is Mlu Slew from Man's Corner, Lappa's Corner. Man's Corner is say, we are at it again and let us talk. Invite me to your place, guys. I'm lonely, but I'm self-actualized. Till next time.